Ryouma is an 11-year-old boy who lives in a fantasy world filled with magic and mysteries, but it wasn't always like that. He used to be a normal working-class male who lived in urban Japan, slaving away in a corporate environment, following the orders of an incompetent boss, working a crappy job, and trapped in an endless circle of corporate misery. One day, while he was sleeping, he ended up sneezing in his sleep, which led to him falling off the bed and hitting his head on the corner of a table, leading to a brain hemorrhage that killed him in his sleep. What a lame way to die. Truck-kun would be disappointed. He wakes up in front of three strange-looking people who introduce themselves as gods. They inform him about his death, and even he acknowledges his disappointment in such a lame death. The gods tell him that they are sending him to an alternative world, which is filled with magic and fantasy, and that there he could live a life as he sees fit. He quickly agrees because he was already tired of his life on Earth anyways, and as a parting gift, the gods also bestow upon him the ability to use multiple forms of elemental magic, which is a pretty rare thing. They explain that they are sending him to the body of an 8-year-old child, and from there on out, he is on his own. He bids farewell to them and is immediately transferred into the body of a child, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in an unknown area, surrounded by lush forests and mountains. He walks around to a tree and kicks it, snapping the tree in half, and recognizes that his body is that of a child, but his mind and strength have been retained from his previous life. While walking and exploring the area, he ends up spotting a blue-colored slime whom he takes a liking to instantly, as they look really cute. He quickly opens his guidebook and learns how to use magic, which would let him tame the slime, and he is successfully able to make the slime his familiar. 3 years have passed by now, and Ryouma is still comfortably living inside the forest alone. Over the years, he has collected over 1,000 different kinds of slimes and likes researching them. Some of his slimes are able to create poison, some of them are able to wash dishes, and some of them are even able to dispose of trash. He has been living a blessed life these 3 years and hasn't met a single human being. One day, while going through the forest, he overhears a bunch of people shouting and goes to investigate the problem, only to realize that it's a group of men who seem to be from the capital, and one of them is injured, laying on the floor in his own blood. This is the first time he has encountered humans ever since he was reincarnated in this world. He is therefore a bit nervous to approach them. But seeing that one person from the group was mortally wounded, far away from any medical help, pushed him to approach them. As soon as he tried to talk, however, one of the men pulled out their sword, pointing it towards him. He quickly blurts out that he has medicine, and the healer from the group warily approaches him. He tastes the liquid and declares that indeed it is medicine, quickly feeding it to the injured man. The injured person soon starts breathing normally in a deep sleep. They thank Ryouma as he tells them to follow him. On the way, they encounter a bunch of slimes, and the men quickly draw their swords, but Ryouma tells them that they are his familiars. They reach a mountain and are confused, but suddenly Ryouma performs magic, and a hidden door appears in the mountain wall. He invites everyone in as they are astonished at the fact that this 11-year-old boy could perform such magic. The leader of the group introduces himself as Ryouma, a duke, which shocks him, and he instantly bows his head down. Ryouma tells him to get up as it was he who helped them. The others introduce themselves as Camel, Zeph, and Jill, and tell him that the injured person is Hughes. They let him know that while attempting to travel through the forest, a group of bandits attacked them, and during the ensuing foray, Hughes suffered an injury. Jimil looks at him and asks him about himself, as he is very curious to know how an 11-year-old kid has been surviving in this forest, as this forest is a very dangerous place, even for a trained man. Ryouma, however, quickly comes up with a story about how he used to live with his grandparents, but 3 years ago, both of them died, and he has been living here ever since. Camel takes out a crystal ball from his backpack and asks him to touch it. He explains that if a criminal touches it, it turns red. Otherwise, it stays blue, and apart from that, it also tells you about the person's age, gender, and race as well. Ryouma, without any hesitation, touches the ball, and it turns out to be blue, but it still shocks the other men, as his stats are all very high for a kid. The next day, Hughes gets well, and they all decide to leave. He thanks Ryouma and tells him that if he has any problems, he just needs to come to the capital and ask for him. They went their separate ways after that. It has been 2 weeks since he said goodbye to Jamil and his crew, and while laying down on the open with his slimes, he suddenly hears a familiar voice calling his name. He looks up to see Hughes walking towards him alongside the others, but this time, there are more people than before. Jimil approaches him and introduces Ryouma to his father and his wife, who are both very happy to see him and thank him for saving the crew's lives. He also introduces his daughter, named Ilya, who is almost the same age as Ryouma. Jimil's father is impressed by the number of slimes Ryouma has tamed up until now. Ilya asks him, how do all these slimes fit in such a small house? He replies by saying that they just combine together and become one big slime, and he proceeds to order the slimes to merge together. Hundreds of slimes join each other and become massive slimes, which completely shocks Juno's wife, who is also a magician, and tells Ryouma that no one in recorded history has ever tamed a big slime. Ryouma invites everyone inside his house and shows them around. Jamil presents him with a very expensive and ornate-looking clock, which Ryouma graciously accepts as a token of gratitude. Jamal also tells him that, apart from expressing their gratitude, they also have a request for him. Suddenly, Ilia gets up and tells Ryouma that their entire family is descended from great beast tamers, and she also wants to join their ranks one day, but she has never tamed a single beast in her life, and as soon as she heard about Ryouma, she wanted to learn more about slimes from him. She notes down how many slimes he has and then points out that there are 2 slime species that have not been recognized in any of the books, and even her mother, who is a very famous magician and beast tamer, tells him that she has never even heard of a slime like that. He explains that they are known as the cleaner slime and the scavenger slime. The scavenger slime eats all the waste matter and even produces fertilizer for the plants, whereas the cleaner slime is able to clean any kind of dirt or grime present on anything. To show how good they are, he pulls out a piece of cloth from a goblin that he killed. The cloth is extremely dirty and grimy, but as soon as he puts it inside the cleaner slime, he starts washing it, and after a couple of seconds, an extremely clean cloth is produced, which surprises the maids of Jamal's family, because according to them, goblin's grime is one of the most difficult things to clean. This completely impresses Ilia, who decides that she wants her first slime to be a cleaner slime and asks Ryouma to give him directions to catch it. He quickly draws a map to a pond, where according to him the slimes are seen, but also says that they will have to lure it, as without lure, the slime won't come to them. He is a bit embarrassed when she asks about the lure, but ends up telling her that these slimes are attracted to your body odor, and the only way to lure them is to wash yourself off in the bathtub, and then collect the used water. Ilia gets a bit embarrassed, but pulls herself together and goes off to the bathtub, determined to catch a slime no matter what. She washes herself off, collects the water, and goes out with her entourage to the pond, while Ryouma stays back. By the time the evening sun starts setting, Ilia returns with the others, a wide grin on her face, showing off the prized slime that she caught. Everyone is extremely happy, and they all have dinner together. Jamal's father asks Ryouma about his plans, and he replies that he doesn't really know where he wants to go anymore. Jamal's father unexpectedly offers him to join their journey to another place. Ryouma is taken aback by the proposal of traveling with the Duke's family. When he sees their worn faces, he decides to bite the bullet and agrees to travel with them. The next day, Jamal tells Ryouma to load everything he needs in the wagon, but instead he replies that he knows storage magic and literally packs everything present inside his house into a magical storage, which again surprises every single person present, as that kind of magic is a very uncommon art these days. Ryouma goes down into the basement for one last time to say prayers to the statues of the gods he has erected there, and he promises them that he will create a new set of statues for them when he reaches his destination. He sits inside the wagon alongside Jamal and his family, and finally his journey starts. Everything seems to be going great for the first few days, as they are able to travel great distances each day, put up tents for the night, make tasty food by the campfire, and sleep under the stars. But one evening, a heavy thunderstorm hits them, and while ascending a hill, Camel starts calling for Jamal and informs him that there has been a landslide and they can't follow this way anymore, and their best bet is to go around, which will at least add 3 days to their journey. Ryouma overhears this and takes out his raincoat, which he made with the help of the water-repellent properties of the slime, and runs out. He creates a barrier for the other men standing in the rain so that they don't get wet, and starts chanting some spells. He uses a combination of earth magic to flatten up the landslide and create a way over them, saving them a bunch of extra travel days. Jamal is extremely pleased and thanks him again for his help before they set out on their journey again. They finally reach their destination, which is the city of Sealfall, and the Duke's family has offered Ryouma the chance to live with them, which he has accepted. The mines in this city have been reduced to a husk of their former selves, and Jamal has taken the responsibility to bring them back up to their former glory. The first day, Jamal's family takes Ryouma to the church, where he will get baptized, and shows him his stats on the stat board. He goes in, and as soon as he sets his stat board down, he is transferred into another space where he opens his eyes to find the gods looking at him. He at first thinks that he has died again and asks whether he is dead, to which the gods reply that he is alive and well, but the gods wanted to talk to him. So they pulled him out of the world for a short duration of time. They congratulate him for the achievements he has piled up for himself in these 3 years and reveal to him that they have been following each and every one of his exploits. They tell him that the reason no one recognizes the scavenger and the cleaner slimes is because Ryouma created them. They also tell him that there have been instances previously when they have brought humans from Earth back to this world, and Ilia has ancestors from both her father's and her mother's side who were reincarnated from Earth. From her father's side, they reincarnated a girl who wanted to be an animal trainer and ended up becoming one of the greatest beast tamers in this world, and Ilia seems to have gotten a lot of genes from her, whereas from her mother's side, the gods reincarnated a guy who was a proper otaku and asked for combat abilities unparalleled by anyone in this world. He could have done a lot of bad deeds, but he was too awkward to leave his home, and he died of old age. They chat for a bit more before the gods bid their farewell and tell him that if there is any time when he wants to talk to them, he could simply drop by the church to pray to them. He thanks them for their insight and support before he is sent back to his world. The Duke's family welcomes him when he exits the room, and Ryoma's father offers him some advice. He tells him that he is incredibly strong and skilled for his age, which will bring the eyes of many less than decent individuals upon him, and it will be his duty to separate the good from the bad and choose for himself. He also tells him to hide his strength as much as possible and join a guild to rank up and build his status. Ilya asks him about his magic capacity and the secret to his magic handling. He reveals that he has a magic capacity of 198,000, and the princess nods her head and reveals that she has a magic capacity of 200,000, which surprises Ryouma. She tells him that people who are born with an unnaturally high magic capacity often have difficulties controlling their magic and are forced to learn ways to manage their magic capacity. But for some reason, Ryouma is able to use magic very efficiently. They go to a beast taming guy that has a wide variety of trainers, but they refuse to take in Ryouma because the only beasts he tames are slimes, which don't have much compatibility. Jamal tells Ryouma to not get disheartened, as he has more qualities of an adventurer, like combat skills and survival instincts. They then go to an adventurer's guild, where he has to undergo a test. A very intimidating man comes to test the skills of Ryouma, gives him a bow and arrow, tells him to hit all 5 targets without missing a single arrow, and backs off. Ryouma takes out his arrows and starts shooting them at an amazing speed. He ends up hitting every single target without fail, and not only that, he is also able to hit the bullseye on every single target. The next test has him hitting multiple moving targets at once, and this time, instead of 5 targets, there are going to be 50 targets. The targets start swiftly shooting out of the machine, and to everyone's surprise, he starts shooting them with an even greater speed than before, hitting every single one of them without fail. The last 4 targets are shot all at once, and to everyone's surprise, he is able to shoot 4 arrows at once, hitting every single one of them. As soon as he was done, however, the guy threw a knife at him, which he was able to catch and throw back at him, before jumping to attack him. The guy tells him to stop and informs him that this was a test of his survival instincts, and he is the first one to be able to not only dodge the attack, but also attack back. He reveals that he is the leader of this guild and tells Ryouma that he has been accepted into the guild and is given the rank key to begin with. He also advises him to check the notice board for any job opportunities at his level. He goes and spots one of the job listings requiring a house cleanup, and he thinks to himself that this is the perfect job for him and his scavenger and cleaner slime. He takes the job, and the next day he packs his slime up and goes over to the house. An older girl who is a Catwoman answers the door when he knocks on it. As soon as she opens the door, a stench starts coming out of the house. She grabs his hands and starts crying, thanking him for taking the job, which makes Ryouma suspicious at the scale of this problem. The name of the cat lady is Maya, and she explains to Ryouma that her house is built adjacent to a huge garbage dump, and one day, out of nowhere, the wall collapsed and a huge amount of garbage just ended up flowing into her basement. The amount of garbage was so huge that no one wanted to work on it, and she has been living in misery ever since. She begs Ryouma not to leave after seeing the extent of the problem, and he promises not to. They go inside the house, and Ryouma looks in awe at the amount of garbage that has been accumulated. He decides that the only way to handle this problem is to start from scratch. He gets up, gathers his slime, and goes into the adjacent garbage dumps, where he releases his scavenger slimes to take care of all the accumulated debris. After a while, the scavenger slimes are able to finish their work, and he uses the cleaner slimes next, alongside his magic abilities, to clean each and every spot on the walls till it looks as good as new. He then moves towards Maya's house and starts using his slime to take care of all the garbage, before disinfecting the place and using cleaner slimes to make it squeaky clean. He also uses his earth magic to patch the giant hole in the wall, which makes Maya so happy that she starts crying again. She signs the job completion form and even adds a huge sum of money as a token of gratitude for taking the work. He goes back to the guild and collects the reward, but before he could go, he was approached by the guild master, who called him in his room and they sat down. He thanks him for the job that he did at Maya's place and asks him for a favor. He tells him that the nearby communal toilets have not been cleaned for a long time, and no one is willing to take charge and deal with the situation. He thinks that Ryouma is the only one who would deal with it, so he agrees. He takes his scavengers and cleaner slimes again to the job and dresses up in protective gear before entering the huge communal toilet. As soon as the gate opens, copious amounts of fumes coming from the decomposing matter start coming out, but he persists and walks inside. He is completely taken aback by the gravity of this situation and gets to work at once. Thankfully, because the scavenger slimes got so much food at Maya's place, they were able to quickly grow and multiply, which hastened the task, but still it took a huge amount of time to clean one of the 30 toilets. By the time he disinfected the toilet, he noticed that there was a deadly poison leaking out and he got out quickly. He calls a meeting with the Duke's family and the guild master, informing them about the situation. They are taken aback by this news and are unable to devise a plan as they don't have enough manpower to clean the toilets, especially someone who would be willing to actually go into a toilet with poison leaking out. Ryouma assures them that he needs no one, and that he is the only one who is going to go in, as he has enough resistance stats to heal and recover quickly. The Duke's family is reluctant to let him go, but when they see no way out, they end up agreeing. He asks them to gather some adventurers and post them out so that no one ventures near the toilet. The following day, he goes inside the toilet and starts cleaning them all at once, coming out at night to drink some recovery potions, then getting back to work. By the time morning arises, he is able to finish his work and is greeted by Mia, who is also one of the adventurers who was posted outside. They all congratulate him on his great work, and he goes off to his house. The way he remembers it in his previous life, working past midnight was normal for him. Even then, his mother would always wait for him without sleeping. He feels pain as he remembers the empty house when she died and how he was so lonely. He enters the house, but this time he is greeted by the entire family of Duke Ryouma, and seeing everyone waiting for him brings tears to his eyes, and he starts crying while Ryouma's wife consoles him. When Ryouma wakes up the following morning and makes his way downstairs for breakfast, Ilia welcomes him with a lavish spread of food and asks him for a favor. She asks him to teach him how to play with magic, which Ryouma accepts, and after having a splendid breakfast, they all go outside, where the first piece of magic that he teaches Ilia is creating bubbles with the help of water and air magic. At first, she has some problems because her bubbles are not as strong as his and are easily popped, whereas his bubbles are very strong and stay in their actual form for a very long time. He also teaches her how to cast water magic to create different shapes, and while she is playing around with that, he requests that Camel teach him some offensive magic as he lacks those capabilities as of now. Camel, of course, agrees and starts by teaching him how to use fire arrows. Surprisingly enough, Ryouma is able to cast fire arrows with ease, and instead of spending too much time trying to learn it, he just advances to all of the different types of offensive magic a Camel knows, such as a fire wall, ice arrows, water spiral, etc. Finally, Camel tells him that he has already taught him everything that he knows and has nothing more that he could teach him. Just then, the butler of the family asks Ryouma if he knows spatial magic, to which he replies that he does know some space magic like teleportation and the creation of storages. The butler asks him to show off his teleportation abilities, which Ryouma is able to do. He tells him that he can teach him warp magic, which lets him teleport over longer distances. Ryouma ecstatically thanks him and is able to learn the warp magic. Later on, he also teaches Ryouma how to create a dimensional storage that has oxygen inside of it, so not only can he transport goods, but also living creatures. It takes Ryouma the entire rest of the day to learn that magic, but by the time the sun sets, he is able to successfully cast a dimensional storage magic, and now has the ability to transport all of his slimes very easily. The next day, they all travel to the iron mines of the city, and Ryouma, alongside Ilia and her entourage, enter the mine shaft to get rid of the monsters occupying it. While walking through the shafts, they are stopped by a giant cave mantis, which is not a very strong monster but can multiply relatively quickly, so giant hordes of them could be a problem. The others decide to let Ilia handle the solo cave mantis. The mantis starts walking towards her, and she uses an ice arrow but misses the attack. The mantis starts running towards her, but before it could attack her, she was able to kill him by hitting him with another ice arrow. Ryouma uses his scavenger slimes to clean up the body, and they move forward. Suddenly, they encounter a group of cave mantises, and this time, Ryouma decides to deal with them. He runs towards them, takes out his daggers, and uses his magic to strengthen himself before jumping upon the mantises, killing them one after the other. He gets out his slime and starts cleaning up when Ilia spots something in the distance and runs towards it. It turns out to be a metal slime, which she captures and hands over to Ryouma as a present for teaching him to play with magic. Ryouma is extremely happy with the gift, and they end up killing the rest of the monsters occupying the shaft before coming out. While examining the slime, something comes up in Ryouma's mind, and he ends up using a combination of magic to extract the iron ore from the soil and convert it into an iron ingot. This surprises the Duke, and he takes Ryouma to a trader in the city, where Ryouma shows his capabilities to craft incredibly fine items. The trader immediately agrees to sell Ryouma's product, and Jamel reassures him that the trader is a trustworthy person. The next day, the guildmaster calls a bunch of adventurers for a meeting and tells them that their next job is to clear another mine shaft that is infested by monsters. The next day, he is picked up in a carriage from his house by a bunch of adventurers and taken to the abandoned mine shaft, where they are greeted by the guildmaster. He debriefs them and informs them that inside the shaft, they would be dealing with a bunch of cave mantises, rats, and cave bats. Alone, they are not a problem, but in large groups, they could be a huge menace to deal with. The adventurers go inside, and while walking, they decide that the ground-dwelling monsters will be dealt with by the rest, while the flying monsters will be taken care of by Ryouma, as he is the only one in the group who knows offensive magic. After clearing the area, they leave the shaft for a small break, but when they come outside, they sense that something is wrong, and indeed, the guildmaster informs them that a bunch of adventurers got surrounded by around 500 goblins and got badly injured. He tells everyone that they are going to rescue them and defeat the goblins. They all enter the dungeons, but to everyone's surprise, it grossly miscalculated the number of goblins they would be dealing with. Instead of 500, there were more than 2,000 goblins. The adventurers start engaging them in combat, but slowly their arrows start running out, and no matter how many they kill, there seems to be no end to the goblins. Ryouma decides to cover every adventurer inside of a soundproof barrier and uses Sound Blast before releasing his slimes from the dimensional storage. The slimes end up attacking all the goblins and defeating them. Before they could celebrate, however, the commander of the goblins along with a bunch of other hobgoblins emerged from the cave, but Ryouma, along with his slimes and the other adventurers, were able to take down the goblins without letting anyone get killed. By the end of it, everyone is covered in goblin grime, but thanks to the cleaner slime that he has, they all get cleaned up before concluding the quest and returning home. On his arrival, he meets up with the Duke's family and, to everyone's surprise, tells them that he wants to carve his own path from now on and thanks them for everything they did for him. He explains that all this time he has been constantly taking help from all of them and hasn't done anything on his own up until now. He was only able to travel to this city because the Duke's family graciously invited him to stay with them, and then they were the ones who helped him get baptized before taking him to the Beast Taming Guild, and then the Adventurers Guild. They were the ones who were hosting him at his place, providing him with food and even training him in the arts of offensive magic and spatial magic. They also helped him meet the trader so that he could establish his own business. Getting all these flavors from the Duke's family, when they want nothing in return, makes him feel like he's being spoiled by everyone, and if it keeps happening, he might lose touch with himself. Ryouma looks at him and says that he already had an inkling that one day he might say that. Still, both Ilia and her mom were extremely sad about this news and tried to dissuade him from going, but Ryouma stood his ground, saying that he has to do this at any cost, and Jamal supported him, saying that it's good for his personal growth. The Duke, however, put a few conditions in place. First of all, he will visit them once every few months so they know that he is doing well. Apart from that, he will keep sending them letters every single week explaining his adventures and any happenings, and whenever he comes to this town, he will stay with them. He agrees to all of them, but Ilia also walks up to him with one final request. She asks him to meet her in 3 years, when she will get a big vacation from her school, and then to meet her again in 6 years, when she will be a graduate. He agrees to that and is told about all the different monsters he might encounter, which he doesn't know about as he has never ventured outside of the forest. They also tell him about a special bird that has a breeding season everywhere and is known to be particularly hard to tame. Its feathers are a prized possession, and apart from their economic value, they are just beautiful to look at once they fill the skies. Ryouma promises to come back when the breeding season comes so that he could witness the phenomenon with all of them together. Jamal asks Ryouma about his plans further on, and he replies that as of now, he's going to open his own laundry business that has great chances of success, because every time an adventurer gets goblin grime on their gear, they are forced to abandon the gear and buy a new one. But if he can wash them clean, it would save everyone a lot of money. Jumo's father advises him to visit the trader once again with his idea, as he might be able to help him with this. He visits the trader alongside Ilia and shows him the cleaner slime, which totally shocks the trader as he has never seen anything like this before. He is extremely happy at the prospect of earning money alongside Ryouma and offers him to join the merchant guild, as it comes with its own perks. Ryouma agrees, so he takes both him and Ilia to an old lady who is also very surprised to see an entire new breed of slime and gives him an application to fill out. She then gets a book out, gives him a map, and shows him the location where he will put his shop. She warns him that the current condition of the shop is extremely bad, but the location is very good, and she will give him a good deal for it. He goes to the location alongside the trader and Ilia and seems pleased by the locality, as it is in a very central area, close to the Adventurers Guild and other industrial areas. He decides to buy the location and starts cleaning the area by using the acid slime to destroy all the weed and scavenger slimes to clean the entire area. He then started laying the foundation of his establishment with the help of Hughes and the others. Once the construction has been completed, he seeks help from the adventurers and starts painting the entire building. Finally, once the building is completed with the help of Ilia, he makes a lawn in front of the building to give it a little bit of personality. Later that evening, he goes by the church again and is transported to the heavenly world. But this time, only one of the gods was available, as he said the other two went on a picnic to Earth. He tells him that they don't have much time to talk and advises him to know that he is still in his child form. And even though he has the brain of an adult, he still feels the emotions like a child, and they might overwhelm him if he is not careful. However, before he could ask him about the details, he was transported back to his world. Ryouma names his laundry service the Bamboo Forest and holds a giant feast, inviting everyone around to see his finished business a day before the grand opening. The next day, he works hard alongside Ilia and her maids to cook food for everyone. And while doing so, he is called upon by the trader, who brought 2 prospective assistants for him. The assistants turn out to be a pair of twins. They seem to be apprehensive towards Ryouma, as his age is only 11 and he already has established a business. He takes them around the building, showing them how things work. He informs them that they have to give the customers the sacks so they can put all their clothes in them and then give them to them for washing. The sacks need to be delivered to the back room, which is full of cleaners and scavenger slimes who quickly clean all the dirt and grime from the clothes, before sending them to the metal slime who eliminates all the wrinkles and makes the clothes crisp as if they have been ironed. He also explains that no water is involved in this laundry business, as the slimes are simply eating away at the dirt, so there is no need to dry out the clothes. After that, he asks them to help him with the feast, as the guests have arrived. Everyone he knows arrives for the feast, and the twins are surprised at how much these people trust Ryouma. After the feast is over, Ryouma shows them their living quarters and asks them if they would want to work with him. And they tell him that they were not sure at first, but now they think that they have a lot to learn from him and would love to work for him. The day of the grand opening arrives, but Ryouma isn't very optimistic as he hasn't even advertised his place properly. He decides to go to the Adventurers Guild to post some advertisements for his laundry business and is shocked to see that Mia has already posted a poster advertising his place. He then looks at the notice board and decides to pick up a quest, as he thinks his day would be pretty empty. He goes to a mine shaft and eliminates some monsters, while collecting the herbs he needs for the quest. He returns back to the guild, collects the reward, and goes back to the bamboo forest. He turns around the corner and is completely shocked to see that his establishment is completely swarmed with people. He couldn't even get in because of the rush and had to use his warp magic to get in. He quickly gets back to work and starts putting the laundry in place. After the day is over and everyone is gone, he is shocked at how many people came today and realizes that the twins haven't had any time to rest in the entire day. He decides that he will hire more workers as soon as possible, and the very next day, he visits the old lady from the Merchants Guild and asks her to give him some suggestions on how to get more workers. The next day at the bamboo forest was even better than the first. The customers came in an even greater number, and they seemed to be really satisfied with the cleaning that he was providing. He realized that if his business keeps increasing in this proportion, he will have to hire many more individuals to work for him. So he goes back to the guild to meet with all the potential employees. He enters the room, which is filled with people of different ages who want a job. But as soon as they see Ryouma, they are shocked. Ryouma realized that not many people would want to work under an 11-year-old kid, no matter how successful he is. Apart from that, he even informs the candidates that if they choose to work for him, they will have to work alongside the slimes, who are to be treated as other employees as well. After that, he told them that any of them who have decided that they don't want to work can leave if they want. As soon as he said that, almost every single person left the room, apart from a young girl and an older man. He asked whether they had any problems working with him, and they said they didn't. They introduced themselves as Fee and Lei, a father and daughter from a neighboring nation, who have come here to look for a job. They also inform him that one of Fee's legs has been broken, but Ryouma tells them that it shouldn't be a problem. He, however, notices that both of them are carrying hidden weapons and confronts them about it. They are surprised that he noticed it and are immediately defensive. But they soon calm down and tell him that they are former assassins who were hired by the neighboring nation, but their employer got killed in the war, and they had to escape that nation, and now they have left the life of being assassins altogether. They apologize to him for hiding the fact and tell him that they will take their leave, but Ryouma tells them that he doesn't have a problem with their past and is willing to hire them if they want to work. Both the father and daughter are shell-shocked, and they tell them that of course they would be willing to work. Ryouma asks them about their salary, but they reply that all they want is any bare-bones place to live, that's it. Ryouma replies that they will have their own dormitory and a sizable salary. Apart from assistants, he also hires them as guards for the establishment as they have a military background. They are overjoyed and thank him for the opportunity. He takes them back to the bamboo forest, which is, as usual, completely packed with customers. He introduces them to the twins, Carla and Callum, and they start working. After the day's work is done, he takes Faye and Lai into the back room and lays Fee down, before taking out his healing slime. Neither Fee nor Lai have ever seen such a slime. Ask them about it. Ryouma decides to give them a demonstration and lets one of the healing slimes heal Fee's leg in a matter of seconds. He gets up and is shocked to find out that his leg has been completely healed, and both he and Lai start tearing up, thanking him, saying that a healer would have taken a fortune to heal his leg. The next day again, the bamboo forest is swarmed with customers, and he realizes they need more workers, so he goes back to the guild and requests for more workers and a cook. The following day, he goes in to meet the new workers, and it turns out to be 3 girls from the same village named Fina, Maria, and Jane. The old lady was also able to get a cook named Selma, who used to work in an inn. They are all ecstatic to work with him, and with Selma's amazing cooking, everyone is happy and content working for Ryouma. The next day, he goes to visit the trader, who tells him that he wants more waterproof fabric as the season for frog hunting is coming and people will want waterproof clothes. He accepts and starts going to an abandoned mine shaft to make the fabric, and he is even accompanied by Elia, who wants to practice her violin, as she explains that the special birds that are seen during the breeding season can only be tamed with the help of music. He also creates a doll for Elia and her entire family. The bamboo forest has been operating without a hitch thanks to the inclusion of extra employees, which gives Ryouma time to take up the quest and visit the mine shaft to make the fabric. He also uses the scavenger slime to train himself for battle. When he returns to the bamboo forest, Callum calls and informs him that they have tripled their profit, which surprises everyone. Suddenly, Ryouma remembers that he hasn't even given them any off days or paid holidays yet. He quickly organizes a bunch of paid holidays for the staff, who can take them in a cycle. This surprises the staff, as in this world there is no concept of paid holidays. Everyone is extremely happy about this development, and says that they have never worked with someone so nice. The next day, he visits the guild again, and this time the receptionist informs him that recently there has been a group that found a rare slime breed and wants to sell it. They went to the Beast Tamer Guild, but they refused to buy it. Ryouma quickly gets the details of their whereabouts and visits them. They were all sad about the fact that they weren't able to sell the slime, but Ryouma ended up buying it from them for a very good price, making both parties happy. He then teleports to the mine and tames the rare slime, which turns out to be a blood slime that sucks the blood out of organisms. He meets Ilia again, who tells him to accompany her the following day as she's going to learn taming magic from her family. Ryouma goes with the Duke's family and has a very interesting lesson in taming different beasts. He also gets to know that Jommel's wife is an excellent tamer and has tamed more than 100 very dangerous wolf-type beasts, and Jommel's father is even more impressive as he has around 20 tamed dragons under his command. Finally, the day of the outbreak comes, and as promised, Ryouma accompanies the Duke's family to the pond, where they spot a bunch of lemur birds flying around and hunting for the frogs inside the pond. A bunch of other adventurers are also trying to catch the frogs, as you can make medicine from them. One of the adventurers goes near the edge of the bank and takes out his flute, trying to tame one of the birds. He tries playing a song for them, but the birds seem to not like the song, which angers him, and he takes out his sword, trying to subdue one of the birds by force, but the birds start attacking him with wind magic. He starts running straight towards the Duke's family and trips in the water. Thankfully, both Camel and Ryouma use their dirt wall magic to save his life. Suddenly, there is a very loud sound emanating from among the birds, which seems to be affecting every single person, but thankfully, Ryouma seems to be completely fine because he has excellent stats. He locates the bird, eliminates that sound, and uses his silence magic on it, which makes the horde run away. The others quickly help the other adventurers, tending to their wounds, and Jommel's dad explained to Ryouma that the bird that made that loud noise was a special lemur bird, which are extremely rare. Ryouma and the others wait near the pond for the birds to return, but it has been close to the time of sunset. Just when they decided to leave, thinking that the birds were not coming, the horde appears again and sits down inside the water. Everyone goes quiet as Ilia takes out her violin and starts playing a beautiful melody. And after a while, to everyone's surprise, the birds start accompanying her in her music and start singing alongside. She keeps playing and finishes her song. By the time she ends her song, 9 different lemur birds surround her, and she is able to forge a successful contract with them. Ryouma decides that he is also going to give it a try, and he takes out his guitar, which has never been seen in this world, and starts playing an equally pretty melody, and surprisingly enough, hearing his melody, a special nightmare lemur bird that made that noise comes and sits down. By the time the song is over, he has even surrounded himself with a group of birds, including the nightmare bird, with whom he can negotiate a deal. Suddenly, Ilia exclaims that one of her birds is in an advanced category, and is apparently known as a phantom lemur bird. It is the counterpart to Ryouma's nightmare bird, as one of them uses dark magic, whereas the other uses light magic. They go back to their house and have a huge party, after which both Ryouma and Ilia go into a room to talk. Ilia is going to her school the following day, and it will be at least another 3 years before they can meet again. She tells him to make a promise that he will send her letters every week and meet her in 3 years. She then proceeds to present him with a beautiful pendant with a magical ruby inside of it, which was gifted to her by her mother at her 10th birthday. She tells him that she wants him to have it as a lucky charm. In return, the oblivious Ryouma gives her 2 of his slimes, as this is his prized possession. This makes Ilia really happy, and she graciously accepts. The next day, they both depart in their separate ways with a promise to grow stronger and meet again in a couple of years.